Hey everybody, today I just wanted to make a video to talk about physical sensations dealing with anxiety. If you want to just make sure you like and subscribe down at the bottom, and then leave any questions or comments if you have any. Now, so first thing I'm going to do is just talk about different anxiety, sensations that I felt. One of the biggest ones for me was neck tightening. So it feels like someone is just grabbing the back of my neck, or it's like it's like a pulling. It almost makes me like my head lift up sometimes. I've had headaches. My eyes have hurt. I've had pressure in my head. I feel like it's like hard to breathe. My throat, my heart racing, stomach, my stomach like in knots, diarrhea, vomiting. I've had like random pains all over my body. I've felt like I have crazy anxiety, almost like I was manic or something, where I felt like I was gonna like shoot off like a rocket, and it was really uncomfortable. I had really bad panic attacks. I would have panic attack seizures is what they would turn into. So I would hyperventilate and I would end up, my whole body would seize up and fall to the ground. That happened to me probably about 6 or 7 times. I had really bad panic attacks. They were, when it was done, I felt like someone like beat the crap out of me, because I was like I said, it was a seizure. Like it was very difficult. I've had just a whole spectrum of different things that have happened, and I would say for me the biggest thing that made the difference is, one, not trying to change the sensations and not trying to figure them out, because a lot of times those sensations are going to happen and immediately you're going to be like, oh, something's wrong, right? Like health OCD was a thing for me. I'd be like, oh, I have this sensation, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. So I would constantly try to figure it out, or link it to a vitamin deficiency, or maybe I'm allergic to something. And that was one thing, and then I thought maybe I had heart problems, maybe I had thyroid problems, and I would always try to figure it out. Maybe I had something else, happen. And it was just this compulsive trying to figure it out. The biggest thing is you want to just bring it for the ride. You want to carry it with you. You want to do what you want to do. You want to be uncomfortable and live the life that you want. Be uncomfortable. And what happens is, over time, you desensitize yourself. So eventually you get to a point where your mind stops reminding you about those things, right? And you get to a point where no matter what sensations are happening, you still do what you want to do, right? Like, so I used to have really bad anxiety about public speaking or being in front of people. So I would force myself to do karaoke over and over and over and be crazy uncomfortable. And then over time, now it's one of my favorite things. I used to be very afraid to drink caffeine. It's one of my favorite things. I love coffee. Start your day with a cup of coffee. Be uncomfortable with those physical sensations, right? Like a lot of the things that are happening, they seem really, really bad at the time, right? Because OCD is going to make it seem like either the worst case scenario or it's something that you can't stand, right? Now, fear has a big part to play here. You want to look at why the fear is so bad. Usually it's that, you're going to you're going to always feel this way for a long period of time, and then it'll ruin your life somehow, right? So for me, I thought, if I always have anxiety, I always feel anxious, I always feel uncomfortable, I'm never going to be able to hold a job consistently. I'm never going to be able to have a relationship. I'm never going to be able to travel. Those are probably the 3 biggest ones for me, right? And eventually I got to a point where I was like, after disputing for long periods of time, I said, well, what's the worst case scenario, right? So let's say I can't hold a job. Okay, so if that happened, I would probably end up moving with a family member or my mom, which I love my family and my mom, but I wouldn't want to live with them. And worst case scenario, what would happen is maybe I'd sleep on a couch. Maybe I would go from job to job to job. I would have a roof over my head. I maybe wouldn't have as nice of things. Maybe I don't have a car. Maybe I have to ride the bus. Maybe I can't hold a job, so I end up, getting depressed or whatever. And maybe I'm anxious all the time. And maybe because of that and being anxious, I'm not able to have a consistent conversation with a girlfriend or be attractive to a girl. And then I would be by myself. And over time, when I really started playing that out, I thought to myself, well, those things may suck and they may be difficult, but it's something that I could live and still be happy, and I could handle it. And then over time, what happened is when I carried those sensations with me, and then I broke down those fears of what the worst case scenario was, is the worst case scenario was something that I could completely handle and probably live a happy, normal life, because there's lots of people in this world today, especially that don't have jobs, that are kind of lazy, and they live a happy, normal life. And there's lots of people that are single. There's lots of people that don't have to date someone and or have a relationship. And then long term, what happens is they still have a life. They have hobbies. They have fun things that they can do, right? So pay attention to what are those core fears surrounding those sensations, right? But bringing it for the ride is probably the most helpful. Now, with the physical sensations, especially with OCD, they can be a little tricky or different. Sometimes they will come nonstop 24 hours. Sometimes they'll start at the beginning of the day. Sometimes they'll start at the end of the day. Sometimes they'll start at a specific time. Sometimes they'll have a trigger, right? And they'll move around, go up and down, disappear, come back, disappear, come back. And it's just another reason or thing to try and trick you, right? Now, the thing that really helped me too with physical sensations is there's a book, it's by Paul David, At Last to Life, and it talks about how when you are experiencing those sensations, when you're experiencing those thoughts, it really is your body's natural ability to heal itself, which is really amazing, right? Like, you have anxiety, your body knows how to fix it, right? And you need to feel those things. You need to be uncomfortable, and think of it almost like a release, right? Like, you're feeling these sensations, your body is just it's just flowing out all of those things. Now, with OCD, the tricky thing is a lot of times it's fear of fear, or you're going to have some kind of other fear attached to it, right? Like jobs, so on and so forth, like I explained. And you're going to have to spend time disputing those beliefs, okay? Now, one thing I'll suggest with disputing beliefs when it comes to physical sensations, if you haven't done it, do it 5-6 days a week for a month, 6 weeks, right? After that, a few days a week, and slowly take your time, and then spend some time not doing it all. Be uncomfortable, right? And maybe your beliefs aren't as attached as you think, right? And it may be something that you can get through, maybe quicker. Maybe it's something that 1 to 3 months, maybe it's 6 months. For me, I dealt with physical sensations for 4 or 5 years. I still will have neck tightening randomly sometimes. I won't be doing anything. I'll just be sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden I'm like, my head will, it's different for everybody, right? I also had generalized anxiety disorder, and I had probably a 4 or 5 month period that I had zero intrusive thoughts about anything, and I literally felt like I was going to, this is another sensation I felt like I was going to vomit constantly. I felt crazy nauseous, and then it would go from being nauseous and feeling like I was going to throw up and being dizzy to I felt like I had energy and I would skyrocket through the roof. I literally didn't need more than 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I felt like I was going to explode. It was like I had 10 coffees and it was just, right? And I just dealt with it for months and months and months and just let it just be. And then all of a sudden it just stopped. And I needed that time. I needed it. My body needed it. I had to go through that, right? And the other thing is, when this stuff is happening, it, especially because it's a journey, right? Like a lot of people think with OCD recovery, especially, or just anxiety in general, it's this thing. It's like, oh, I'm gonna always get better. It's not, right? It's easy to fall back into those habits, and sometimes that stuff is gonna come back. Maybe your theme switches, right? And then those sensations will come with it, and then that fear can pop its head back up, right? And what you have to remember when those things happen is just be uncomfortable. Be uncomfortable. Wake up, do your thing, right? Do what you normally do, right? So for one thing, for my fear of fear, I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to live my normal life. And I was like, okay, well, let's say I'm constantly anxious forever, and I'm always going to feel this way. I was like, well, I would wake up every day and make breakfast like I normally do. I would go to work. I would still hang out with my buddies, which I do sometimes. Probably cook a few meals. Probably be, maybe tired at the end of the day. Watch TV. And I would feel maybe a little bit down, here or there, and I'd probably get upset, and but the reality of it is that my life being compulsively anxious and uncomfortable was actually not that bad. It was actually a really good life. It's just I just felt so bad all the time, so I made my life to be to be so bad, and when I was able to break down that belief about my life, I had a switch, and that switch was that I could be compulsively anxious and be uncomfortable forever. And there's been times it's popped back up, and it's caught me for a little bit, right? And I've had to be uncomfortable again to get through it. But it's a process, and that process is going to be the next step to help you consistently have longer periods of time of not being uncomfortable. And every time you relapse, well, have a setback or, whatever it is, you have to expect that, and you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. So anyways, I hope you guys have a great day, and then that's all I got for you.